This is Chad Barron. You're listening to My Alien Life.
And I noticed that it had a dome-shaped top and a rounded bottom, and it was not touching the ground. I felt this sharp pain in my eye, and then I had this telepathic voice that said, "Look straight ahead. Do not look at the lights."
Those kind of speeds exist in our galaxy, and this object came from outside of our solar system. Any random object that wasn't part of our solar system happened to be traveling in the direction of our solar system. It can easily traverse our solar system with a speed that's incredibly large.
It had been tested on lab mice, and it didn't kill them, and so I wasn't really that leery about it.
I could see that there's a fear on his face, and he took off, we took off, so something was wrong there, man. Something was wrong there, man. They cut into something that they didn't know. They didn't know what was wrong there, man, and there was some problems.
My Alien Life is recorded high atop the Northern Rocky Mountains and is heard all over the world, and you can listen everywhere fine podcasts are found. My website is www.myalienlifepodcast.com. There you'll find links to every episode, stories, photos, the My Alien Life Legends page, and much more. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and consider becoming a patron while you're checking out all the content. I'm your host, Cameron Logan. This is My Alien Life, and the podcast starts right now.
My Alien Life Podcast.
Three, two, one, zero, and liftoff.
So we're kind of the two extremes in the universe right now. Well, at least in the United States. You're in Maryland. I'm in Montana. What's going on in Maryland tonight? I mean, it started snowing here. It's freezing, but I don't suppose you've been getting a break after the big winter blast you guys had.
Well, the temperature did go down quite a bit. I mean, it dropped almost down to zero for a couple of nights, but it always warms up. It was warming up during the day around 30, but it stayed cold for like 3 weeks, but now it's been up to the 60s during the day. So it's been pretty nice out.
Serious? That's crazy.
Yeah. The last few days it's been up in the 60s and then drops around 35, but it's going to start going down a little lower within the next week or two. It's been a good January though.
Yeah, I never think of you guys being that far south, but you're much further south. Well, not a huge amount. You're further south than I am, so it's like I'm over it. Winter can leave and never come back. I don't care. Talking tonight to William. William, I kind of discovered you by accident, and I saw bits and pieces of a couple of podcasts that you were on. Probably, well, I shouldn't say the end of the pandemic, but right in the midst of it. And I thought about reaching out to you, and you know, one of the things that really captivates my attention is when people talk physics. And I liked your website, bentlights.com. I like the whole idea that, you know, you actually have studied light and communicating with light. I want to talk about that because it's really amazing that, you know, we have so many ways of communicating, and, you know, obviously we see things every day that we can't explain, and that's what kind of captivated and captured my attention, was the thought that, you know, people are seeing things, and there's light, and it could be transported by light. Just, I'm going to quit babbling and talk about that for a minute, And when did you come up with this idea that we could be missing this communication from other places in our universe that is brought here by light, by other entities out there?
Thanks for the question, and thanks for having me on.
That's bad question. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so with physics, in Greek, it was spelled physis, P-H-Y-S-U-S, and it means nature, physics. Physics is nature. What I've been studying for 8 years now is nature. I'm describing nature, but I'm actually investigating the visible light spectrum. So I'm studying light, and then doing so, I realized that it's connected to quantum physics. And what I've been able to do is develop an experiment where I'm able to see and view quantum entanglement on a macroscopic scale. And the reason I'm doing the experiment is in 2010 in Palmdale, California. I was just making a rainbow on a refrigerator, and I had a digital camera. So I took a photo of the rainbow on the black refrigerator, which was metal. And in the digital camera, I zoomed in and I seen things in the spectrum that shouldn't be there. Like there was an Indian crossing the creek with 3 men on horseback to the left. There was a woman opening the gates to a cemetery. There was like a temple. There was a soldier with a bazooka on his back. I have all of this video documented. I have it documented on film back in 2010. I have that camera, but I have not released it. But that's what gave me the idea that there was information in the spectrum, light. And in doing so, I knew I had to create a rainbow. So in 2015, I remembered the experiment in 2010, which was by accident. It wasn't really an experiment. I'm just taking a photo of a rainbow on a fridge. So I decided to grab what metal I could find. I grabbed the water that I could find. I knew I had to create a rainbow. I used my laptop and a webcam, and I started running the experiment in April of 2015, documenting the visible light spectrum. As soon as I ran the first test, I was reviewing the evidence. I was able to see unexplained anomalies appear in the spectrum. The first one that I seen was the human soul. It had human-like appearance, but it was non-physical, so it looked like a ghost. And it had a nose, eyes, head, shoulders. So that was the very first unexplained anomaly I seen in the spectrum. And these images are appearing on a piece of metal that is only 3 inches long and about 1 inch wide. So the light is going through the water. The light is then projected to the steel. And then I'm taking digital photographs of the light on the steel. And then when I'm reviewing the photographs, that is when I'm seeing unexplained anomalies. They appeared in 2015 on the first day of running the experiment. I continued the experiment till 2019, and I was still able to capture unexplained objects. I found 3 different species.
So people have been doing, not even scientists, but, people like you have been doing experiments with light since there's been light, almost, since there've been humans. So how do you account for your discovering what makes it different? Don't you think somebody would have discovered this earlier on? I mean, you discovered it by accident. It seems to be pretty straightforward what you were looking at and how it was set up, maybe. Has it been discovered before? Are we trying to hide that like we try to hide so many things that are new and inventive and possibly controversial?
There is a lot of technology that uses the visible light spectrum. However, they are creating their own light and using their own source of energy. I discovered these messages in sunlight. So through my experiments, every experiment is ran with astronomical light. Majority of all experiments, especially coming with quantum entanglement, a lot of these experiments are done with artificial light, lasers and other different things. Now, the simple concept, the test for quantum entanglement was the slit experiment, where they would pass light through a slit and it would go through, and it would be different every time. My experiment is similar. If you were to substitute the slit for the water, then you have the slit experiment for quantum entanglement, but with using water instead of a slit. Water has already been proven to have memory, so water would be a good source, and it also refracts the light. So inside the water, as the light passes through the water, it's scattering the photons. And in 1 centimeter of sunlight, you're looking at over hundreds and millions of photons. A photon is a single particle of light, which is on a quantum scale. So a lot of people, when they think about quantum physics, think things are really tiny, that you can't see them. They're the size of atoms or molecules. That is a photon. That is a single particle of light. In 1 centimeter of sunlight, you're looking at hundreds of millions of photons. In the photographs that I'm documenting, it's around 3 inches. So we're looking at trillions of photons, all entangled to form coherent images, objects of people or animals or things other than animals or people. And they're able to form these images using the visible light spectrum. So it wasn't until just recently, in 2021, Terry Rudolph in London and a Harvard physicist here in the US published papers. Michael Hipke was in the US. They published papers supporting that advanced civilizations in our universe could use this entanglement and entangle light with our star, the sun, or other stars in the universe. So it would be an ideal way to communicate large information. You could teleport it anywhere in the universe instantly, instantaneously. So it just makes sense that any civilization outside the reach of our radio waves would be using this technology to communicate long distance.
So basically you're saying they could take these endless fibers, which could exist, that do exist rather throughout the universe, and they could be starting this communication process millions and millions of light years on these fibers or quantum strings, basically. And are they able to, somebody's able to direct that to you or to anywhere?
With quantum entanglement, you would just need photons entangled. So if they have our star entangled, if they were able to transfer information in between our star and their star, that information would be transferred instantly. As far as how it's transferred, there are no wires in between. It's teleported. With quantum entanglement, information can be encoded and decoded in the same particle, but you have 2 different particles that are identical, but they're separated by zeons or millions of miles, light years, however you want to say it. They could be in another galaxy. So long as you have a way of remote entanglement to where you could access entanglement of stars in other galaxies, you would then be able to gain access to information to be able to transfer back and forth. So the information is being transferred, but it's not being sent. It exists at the same time, sure, which would be similar to looking through a window. So you're not actually sending any information. You're just looking into something and something can see back in. Right. Similar to a crystal ball.
Gotcha. So do you think these images that you see, obviously, or something, or somebody, are they aware of that you're viewing this? Are people aware of this? Are entities or aliens, or are they aware that you're viewing this? Or is it just a byproduct of being at the right place at the right time and you're picking it up?
Frequencies. When it comes to that, I would say they were alerted whenever I detected them the very first day of running the experiment. They visited me with UFOs a week later, and they continued for 2 years. I would see them. Some I documented, some I didn't. I don't discuss them very often. The one I do discuss was very large. It was orange. It came from the south. It moved towards me in the sky. It had like a black substance swirling inside. It stopped, and then it just moves east slowly. It just moved slowly the whole time. So in the beginning, I created the experiment to communicate with ghosts. So I thought that by using this visible spectrum, I could communicate with the life after life. But in doing so and documenting the evidence, I found that it's not just spirits or ghosts. There's humans like us that are using this frequency, and there's other advanced life forms. So I documented 3 forms of life. I documented non-physical, like ghosts. I documented physical, like you and me. And then I documented some form of advanced reptile. So those are the 3 species that I've seen. And I do believe that they are using this frequency to communicate long distance in the galaxy. And once they knew that I could see them, they did start coming more often to show up in the photographs.
So you have these photographs that you've taken. If you were in a different spot, say 1,000 miles away, are you going to get that same information, those same photographs, or is it going to be something different? Perhaps maybe even a mile away, is it going to be different, or is it going to be the same?
Using the same light, the star, our star, the sun. So for me, I believe that the information would be the same because I have accessed it from California, Palmdale, New York, Long Island, and here in Maryland. I did run the experiment here in Maryland in 2020, and I was able to gather unexplained anomalies appearing in there as well. And how they're able to send these messages, they're using our star, the sun. They're entangled. So anyone who has access to the sun would be able to communicate with these civilizations.
So when you say communicate, are you saying there's some intent by them to give you this information? Or is it, like I said, I'm not really clear. I was alluding to the fact before that it was just happened by chance that you're getting this information, and they do become aware of it, but they're not aware of that they've actually sent this information to you. But is this information, images being sent to you purposefully?
I would say yes. You could tell that they're aware. They always show up whenever the unexplained anomalies appear. They're always right side up, so you never have to turn the image over or flip it side to side. They always show bilateral symmetry. And I asked questions once if I could trust them, and they put in a stuffed animal that I had when I was a kid, a gremlin. So they can understand, and they're trying to communicate as best they can. But what's important to know is that what I discovered is the frequency, and what we need to do is develop the technology to tune in the frequency so then we could get more detail. Now, there is an event that occurred recently. I'm not sure if you're aware of that June 27th event.
I don't know. What are you speaking of?
Speaking of what I witnessed on June 27th, I witnessed a rainbow over my truck. So I went to take a photograph with my camera, just with my phone camera. And I didn't have time, so I took 2 photos. I put the phone away. An hour later, I look at the photos, and in reviewing the photos, I realized that there was a massive portal that opened up in the sky with 12 golden rings and about 17 silver metallic sphere UFOs, silver UFOs. And they were all metallic and ball shaped. There was one directly next to the portal, which had the golden rings, and in the center of it, it had 2 circles. One was lighter than the other, and the other was darker than the other, but they overlapped evenly. So, like I told you before, since I made the discovery, I have been visited by UFOs, and now I have, in June 27th, documented a portal opening up next to a UFO with UFOs scattered throughout the clouds. That was on June 27th at 6:35 p.m. The sighting has not been investigated yet. The portal is unexplained, but through my research on my website, I have discussed it in one of my articles discussing macroscopic quantum energy. And the portal would be a magnetic field portal, is how I would describe what I'm witnessing on the photograph that I see and documented. magnetic field portal is a natural phenomenon that occurs all the time. And NASA classifies these as X points. They open and close. Some are bigger, some are smaller. Some could be the size of a football field. Some could be a lot smaller. So they vary in size, and they also appear for different times. Some would appear longer, some would appear shorter. I believe what I documented would be the very first photograph of a magnetic field portal opening up. However, the UFOs in proximity of the portal leaves me with more questions to know how they are there next to the portal. So I feel like it was a big event that needs to be investigated, is what I'm getting at.
Ufologists and paranormal researchers cross paths from time to time. You have on your website that you say that you've discovered a connection between the paranormal realm and the extraterrestrial activity, and the physical connection between science and religion. Is there a connection between the paranormal world and the alien UFO world? I mean, a lot of people try to make those connections, but sometimes fall short. What is it? And is there a connection?
Well, we all know that there's life after life. We have a soul, and our spirit leaves our body at the end of our life, and it goes somewhere. It's been interpreted through religion as heaven. The connection through the paranormal is, we know that there's energy that resides after someone leaves this earth, because we have that documented through ghost hunting shows and paranormal investigators all throughout the world. People have documented sightings of paranormal things that can't be explained. It's just energy. What I'm seeing is that not only is it energy, but it's intelligent energy. So it has a form of intelligence, but it's not human form. It's a different form that we cannot see with our eyes. However, we're able to pick it up with the digital cameras. That goes back to my experiment. With my experiment, I'm using a digital camera to document. So as I'm running the experiment, I'm not really seeing anything appear. It's not until after I take the photographs. And that's how you would view the ghostly world, is how people describe it. It's a very good possibility that if we develop this technology to communicate with what I detected and what I'm suspecting to be an advanced civilization, that it could be. I'm not claiming that it is, but there's a possibility that it could be where we go after we leave Earth.
You had sent me some links to your website, and I was reading some of your publications that you've done on visible light quantum communication. One of the articles was titled, "We're Not Alone, Scientific Evidence Suggests There are 2 trillion intelligent species in our universe." What scientific evidence suggested that? Tell me about that.
Yeah, there was a recent study done last year sometime, and I'm not familiar with everyone. It's on there. I anytime I post a study, I always put a link to that study. What they discovered through their observations was that there's trillions and trillions of galaxies. So scientists years ago had a number of galaxies, and then they developed Hubble Space Telescope. Once they got the Hubble up in outer space, they were able to see things they'd never seen before. So then the number of galaxies went up. Then you get the Drake equation back in the 70s of how many intelligent life forms there are in one galaxy. Well, if we are existing in the Milky Way galaxy, we know that galaxies naturally form intelligent life because we are evidence of that. So if there's 2 trillion galaxies, we're not discussing life in our galaxy, but every galaxy. If every galaxy would have to at least have one form of intelligent civilization, which would bring the number of intelligent civilizations to the number of galaxies. So if there was one galaxy that didn't have one intelligent civilization, there's another galaxy that could have hundreds because it's larger, so it would make up the factor. So there is at least 2 trillion other people like us existing in the universe. And what we are close to finding is that frequency to connect us to them, so then we could get information from them the information they teach us, we'll be able to use to maybe go see them or travel to them. The information and knowledge that we'll get would hopefully be a technological advancement, and also information and knowledge to where we exist after Earth, and explain a lot of things still happening on Earth in areas that are haunted, or areas that have a lot of energy, because there are a lot of good spirits. I believe that there is more good spirits than negative spirits, and these good spirits exist, and these good spirits want to help out. But in order for them to help out humans, we need a way to connect better to them. So it's all going to be a technological advancement. But what I foresee in the future is having the abilities to not only communicate with life in other galaxies, or life in our galaxy but outside our solar system, but we will soon have the ability to communicate with life after life that still exists here on Earth. And that would be ghosts and spirits and angels.
Right. The visible light spectrum is, I wouldn't say in the universe, as far as the ability for us to use it as a communication tool is short-lived. But we have the ability to use radio waves, microwaves. There's infrared, X-rays, and some of those we're able to control in a way that we've been able to communicate quite effectively with that. And likewise, we've been doing this search for decades for life beyond this solar system, or even within the solar system, other life besides ours, searching, for radio waves, and searching the infrared and different radiations that are permeating the entire universe. So why haven't we come up with messages yet using those other spectrums? What's your opinion on
it? It's the focal point. What I see through my experiment is a focal point. So now you have angles of where the light is coming into the water. You have a lens, which is curved, so the light is being scattered. So the light is being scattered through the plastic container that the water's in. There's only about 1 inch of water in a water bottle. The sunlight passes through the plastic. It scatters the light. Then it gets into the water, which is a separate medium. It scatters the photons more. And then it exits out the curved end of that plastic, which then it gets scattered again. And then it's projected to the steel, which is black, so you could pick up the light. And then you're taking digital photos of that.
Sure, but my question is, with let's just take radio waves, for example. It's such an easy way for us to communicate. It's a cheap way for us to communicate, and assuming so, likewise, it would be cheap for any intelligent race out there to use radio waves, and they're easily directed, virtually travel almost forever. Why aren't we picking up signals that we know could be from an alien society out in outer space via radio waves? We've been searching these radio waves for so long. Have we been searching too long?
I discovered them in the frequency, and back to the focal point, because I did get sidetracked. That focal point, it's stretched, so the angle, so the light's coming in through here, and then it's going into here. So you got light coming in and then projected to the steel, and then you have the camera angle from the steel. So it's the focal angle and the focal point, I believe, is what makes it work. So that I don't believe anyone has discovered. So that would be new. As far as radio waves are limited to the amount of information they can send. They're also limited to the speed of light, which is still fast, but it travels. They're not capable of sending information from galaxy to galaxy, or capable of sending information throughout our own galaxy. Our galaxy is 100,000 light years across. The center of our galaxy, 50,000, approximately 25,000 light years. Our technology with radio waves has only traveled 200 light years. So that's not very far as sending a message out or collecting information in. So you're only collecting information to being sent. So radio waves, I feel, would not be logical to send information long distance. So that would mean they would not use it, is what I'm getting at.
So being that your process that you've discovered is a quantum mechanical process, it's instantaneous, right? So if we're talking a species that's 200 million light years, we're not seeing them 200 years ago. We're seeing them as they are in the present. Is that what you're saying?
It would be instant, yes. So regardless of where they're at, the information transfer will be instant. So you wouldn't be looking into the past or the future. You would be seeing present time. Yeah.
So describe, you did a great job of describing the device that you accidentally created. It's relatively simple. And what do you feel is the part of it that is different? What do you feel is the part of it that hasn't been discovered by physicists experimenting with light? And you described something black that it's projected upon. What exactly is that, and what does that look like? Describe that, because I could see the sunlight going through the water in the bottle, but I couldn't see that part.
Yeah. So all the unexplained images that appear with my experiments, the humans, the non-physical, physical, they all appear on this black metal steel. What I'm using is a paint and spackle mixer, but it's black and it's curved, and it's only about an inch wide and 3 inches, 4 inches long. So I'm using the black background to project the light to. Einstein actually theorized back in the 40s or 30s that when light impacts metal, it changes and turns from waveform to particle form. So there's two forms of light. There's waveform and particle form. Waveform is the light that we see with our eyes, and it just bounces around everywhere. Particle form is when light hits metal. It changes the mechanical makeup of the light itself and creates it into a particle to where you could store information and data. So quantum physicists have already discovered this particle form of light, and they have good photographs showing it. Now, all scientists are using, like I said before, artificial light, and they're using it in a laboratory setting. There are not many experiments using sunlight. There are many searches for extraterrestrial messages using radio waves, which they're beaming out to space or receiving, just scanning the skies. But when it comes to looking for visible light frequency messages, no one is searching. So that's where this experiment, it is simple. It's a simple discovery, but no one was looking. So it was overlooked. So if they're using artificial light testing quantum mechanics and they're not using sunlight, then they would not have been able to pull the information and data that I pulled out of the visible light spectrum.
Have you tried to recreate your device, in a different way or enhance it at all?
I kept it consistent. I never changed the setup. So I still have the exact same setup. Once I knew that it worked, I never changed it. And I kept it consistent. Everything stayed the same throughout from 2015 to 2019. And in 2020, I used the same experiment. It still worked. And like I'm telling you, through the trillions of intelligent life that can be out there, the technology that is advancing on Earth right now, there are plenty of people talking about new technology to communicate with advanced civilizations using instant communication. There is nobody that I know of looking into my experiment or investigating it. So there still hasn't been an investigation of my discovery or the sighting that I witnessed June 27th, which would be the portal with the UFOs.
Back up a little bit and describe, let's talk about these images again. What was the first image you saw, and what was your initial reaction to that?
The first one I seen was the human soul, and that was the one that looked very detailed, ghostly. It was a aha moment. I'm like, what is that? Wow. It was very calming. I was very happy to see what I seen. Since then, I'm now used to seeing it. So I get a lot of positive energy from it. I've never felt any negative vibe from anything that I've image, but that was the very first that I seen. If I didn't see that, I may not have kept looking, but I did keep looking. And soon after, about a week later, I seen what looked like an advanced form of reptile. It looked like a turtle that is a million years evolved. So when it comes to how old the universe is, like, for example, the Earth is only 4 billion years old. The universe is 14 billion years old. We're talking about 2 trillion galaxies. So that would leave billions of years for life to evolve before we even evolved. We evolved in the past 4 billion years. The universe is 14 billion years old. There are other species that could have evolved on other planets, specifically reptiles, because reptiles did evolve on Earth first. There were dinosaurs before there were humans and mammals. So I would think that other planets could evolve differently over billions of years to where the reptiles, dinosaurs, advanced into the future and became super intelligent. Now, in communicating with those species, we all need to know that when we communicate with other life forms, that there are other life forms that could be out there, but some people are very afraid of them. But now with the photographs, that's where I'm getting at. It looked reptilian. It looked like a turtle, but it looked very cute. It had brown skin, gold reflective eyes, upside down mouth. And then there were others that looked similar to what people have called the grays. So there could be a few different species, but there are images of things that are non-human, but they don't look scary. They look pretty gentle.
Why do you think that you're seeing so many different species and different types of organisms when you see this? Is this on purpose, or are you picking up basically stray signals of light that just happen to pass your way and strike you, so you can use your technique to develop these?
I came to everything I'm telling you is what I've interpreted through the experiments, but there was one test where I seen what looked like a human and a reptile together on one side. So they were working together. And in the center, there was the ghost-like spirit people. There was a little boy and a woman. And on the right, there was what looks like an Easter Island head. This is all in one little slither, about 3 inches long of sunlight. But there were that many different objects: human, the reptile, the 2 ghosts, and the supercomputer, which I believe the Easter Island head was. But it looked like they were having a meeting. So there is some type of like hierarchy system. It's not chaos. It's control. It's simple, I believe, but they do communicate with each other. I've seen them in photographs. There was the 3. You had the alien-looking extraterrestrial on the left, a tall man or woman in the center, and on the right you had a bald man wearing a black suit. That bald man appeared in many different photos for over 2 years. He came back with other species. So there was one person who stayed consistent throughout the entire experiment. And then later on, by 2019, there was another bald man that was heavier. He also had a beard. So that was a separate bald man that was 4 years later.
Have you ever taken a look at the image and tried to blow it up? And if so, what sort of image resolution and pixel per square inch could you estimate? I mean, it's interesting that you see this image, and I don't know, I get this sense that it's this tiny image, but it's packed full of information. I'm wondering if it could be blown up for a higher degree of resolution.
My experiment is very simple, but if there was more technology involved, if we know the frequency, then we could probably tune it into where it's as detailed as us video chatting now. However, with my experiment, the images are very detailed for the size. The actual size of these images, remember, they're appearing on a small slither of metal, 1 inch by 3 inch. So they're already small enough, but the detail inside of that 1 inch by 3 inch image of this visible spectrum, they have laser focus, laser precision detail. So to me, I have blown these images up and they look pretty fabulous. And the detail that I'm seeing, even blown up, when you're realizing how small these images are quite amazing. And that's with what I've discovered, unexplained anomalies appearing in the visible light spectrum. When scientists get involved and create this technology and reverse engineer it, or just focus in on the frequency itself and find that focal point, I do believe that we would have like a live video and audio feed where we could communicate and talk to whatever I'm talking to, which I believe to be after Earth. It's not here on Earth.
So when you're looking at these objects on any given day, do they always make an appearance? And can you always see something? Is there always something available?
That's a great question. And when I started the experiment in 2015, I would run weeks and sometimes I would get absolutely nothing. That was in the beginning. And sometimes I would get a few and then sometimes they would stop. And then like 3 weeks later or the next month, out of nowhere, because I'm running the experiment daily. In 2015, I ran it daily for a year. There would be weeks that go by, there was nothing. And then 1 week I would get 3 or 4 good days where I would just find all kinds of different things. And Nikola Tesla actually was researching in his notebooks. I remember reading it, and what he wrote about was a frequency that he was tapping into. And he said that it would come and go. Sometimes it would be open for a week, sometimes 3 hours, sometimes a month, but then other times it would be gone and then it would come back. There is a possibility that that could be connected to these magnetic field portals. Remember, I told you that NASA classifies them as X-points. They are a natural phenomena. They appear and disappear. And when a magnetic field portal opens, it connects our atmosphere with the sun's atmosphere instantly. And I believe that is due to quantum entanglement. It's forming like a magnetic field portal. And that's what they classify it as. That's a natural phenomena. Nikola Tesla may have been picking that up back in the 30s with his experiments, but I'm not exactly sure how he was able to pick up what frequency he was picking up. But that would explain when or why some weeks would go by, I wouldn't see anything. And then other weeks I would be able to tune it in better. That there may be some field, a magnetic field portal possibly, that needs to be within close proximity between the observer in order to establish this communication network. So when the portal is open, you're able to view and receive information. But when the portal is closed, then you can't see or view anything. So it could be something similar to that.
But they can see us too. And if it's a species that's far advanced, you would think that they could monitor us very easily.
With this technology, you could, if you had the capabilities to entangle your technology with the star that is closest to Earth, our planet, anything that light passes through could be recorded and sent back, yes. The sun, too, creates neutrinos. Neutrinos, scientists search for on Earth. They're a ghost-like particle. You can't see them. They fly through us. Millions and billions and trillions of neutrinos are passing through us. They pass through the Earth. They just pass through everything. They don't stop. So those are ghost-like neutrinos. With sunlight, it is impacting. So anything it touches, you feel it. If they had the capabilities and the technology and data, they would be able to map out or see anything that is connected to the light, and they could expand or make it smaller. So it would be similar to a telescope, but it's a remote viewing technique, and you're just using natural light to do so via quantum entanglement.
So you keep mentioning the sun as an integral part of this, and of course, I mean, it's the biggest light source in our solar system. But do you feel that that this is an earthly celestial sun reciprocal event that is created between the Earth and the sun and some other point out there in the universe? Or is it the same situation scattered throughout the universe where you have a bright star? Is it possible?
It would be possible. Other stars that are larger, our sun is pretty small. There are many stars that are so much bigger than our star. So they would create their own magnetic field. So then if there was planets near those stars, those magnetic fields would be impacted from their star's magnetic field, and they would be interconnected too. Everything would be connected through this natural light source, so long as you had the technology to use it. And that's the thing. I don't believe that we have this technology on Earth. I don't believe that it's been invented yet.
So is this just a natural phenomenon, an anomaly with light, or is it created and used in a way?
That would be a good question, but I wouldn't know, because like I told you, I could refer back to the June 27th event where I documented the portal, which is what I believe to be a magnetic field portal, but there were UFOs next to it.
Right.
That takes away the natural phenomena. Why would the UFOs be there unless they had to be there to travel through it? That would mean you have physical objects able to pass through, in and out. Mm-hmm. So not only do we have a communication line, we now have objects that are moving in and out of these magnetic field portals. So that would mean that they could use them to travel. So then you could jump stars theoretically if you were able to find those portals. So then if you were to find a larger star, it would have a larger magnetic field portal. You would be able to travel from point A to point B through those portals.
One of the things that strikes me is the fact that there's such a great distance between stars. For example, if you look, this is from my own research, but if you look at out into our sky, in our northern sky right now, and see Orion, and the center star on Orion's belt it's of a magnitude of brightness that is about 275 to 600,000 times the brightness of the sun. So to me, if you were close enough, I think it's 2,000 light years away, but if you were close enough and could capture that sunlight, it could possibly be different because of the magnitude of it. But being that stars are so far apart, you have to be in close proximity to a star to actually capture this light and use this as a communication technique.
So long as you have access to that star's light, then it could possibly already be entangled. I do remember going over this years ago where we could see the stars in the sky. That means the light from that star is actually already in contact with the light from our star, and the light from our star is going towards that light. So they do kind of meet in the middle, but also they pass through each other. So all the stars are already connected. If you were to envision the visible light spectrum as wires, if we could see it, then the light is traveling to our eyes. Then it's similar to a wire, but it's not a wire. We're using it as a metaphor. But if the light itself, if we can see it, then it's already in contact with things here. So that would keep everything already connected.
Right. And to me, that one star out there that I use as an example, and the reason being is because as far as we know, there's no planets orbiting that star. So why is it out there? Is it a beacon? Is it a source of communication? It's something other than a star like we have. I mean, obviously it's much, much, much different. So, but yes, we can see it. So that light is reaching the Earth, meaning that somehow if we could magnify that light coming from that star, wow.
Yeah, amplify it. That's all you would need to do is amplify the light from distant stars. But we don't need to amplify the light from our star.
Do you think about how to Have you ever thought about how to do that? I mean, amplifying light from stars that are out there that are 2,000 light years away. I mean, that would be unbelievable.
It wouldn't be hard so long as you had the technology, and then you could run your satellites in space. You could definitely test that up there in space a lot easier.
Yeah.
And then there was another thing I wanted to get on.
Sure.
When we were talking about the stars, Orion's belt. I ran a star map for 6:35 p.m. of June 27th, and there was Orion's belt was at the horizon, and there was planets that were nearby. I'm not sure, but I did have a star map. But I don't believe that any of that has anything to do with what I witnessed. I believe what I witnessed was here in our atmosphere. It seemed like it was, and then the unknown objects that appeared. And the objects were very similar to what they described at the U.S. congressional hearing last year when Adam Schiff was questioning one of the DoD department guys. He was describing what appeared to be like a silver metallic ball looking sphere that was just flying through the air. And I sent you an email with the photographs from the 2016 SpaceX rocket explosion. In that explosion, when you watch the full high definition version on YouTube or however you get your videos, you will see what looks like a silver ball come from the right side and travel. And as soon as it gets next to the head of that rocket, you see another ball appear right next to where the rocket is, and then the explosion happens, but it zips through. So it never stops as it's flying through. So that is also similar to what was next to the portal. And then they're also describing it at the U.S. congressional hearing. So there does seem to be an increase in these metallic silver balls that are appearing. And I don't believe that the government has an explanation for them yet.
Looking at your website, I'm looking at it's an article called Contact with Extraterrestrial Life, The Untold Story, and there's some photographs that you took. One in particular says extraterrestrial beings, and it showing your technique, and it shows the sunlight and being caught on the object that you use, and it looks like a group of beings kind of just hanging out. I mean, I can make out three. I don't know what you see when you look at it, but you have three blue arrows, but I can see three beings in that photo.
Yeah, and they're all looking forward. That was the one I was telling you. On the left-hand side, you have what seems to be an advanced form of reptile. In the center, you have a tall man or woman wearing a robe. And in the right, you have a bald man. But all three of them were looking inwards at the camera. And like I told you before, every unexplained anomaly appears right side up. So you never have to flip it over. So they're always the same direction. So they have always kept that consistent. And that is the very first publication I went public with, and the instructions and methods on how to run the experiment are there. You can run a sunlight experiment, or you could run the moonlight experiment, which is simpler. With the moonlight experiment, you don't need the metal. You just need water and a camera, and then just face it towards the moon and start filming video. I was able to get audio from the moonlight experiment that sounded like two lions that were growling. And I'm not sure how the audio was picked up on the mic when I was running the experiment, but it could have had something to do with the frequency.
I didn't remember if you mentioned this or not, but I'm looking at, you have instructions on how to bend light, and you're using a Logitech 720 webcam. But have you ever tried the close-up and the 3x mag on a cell phone or something like that, which it's actually a pretty good lens for taking close-up photos?
I did use the only other camera I used for this process was with the moonlight experiment. I did use my iPad many times with that. But as far as cameras, I kept it consistent with the 720p for the sunlight experiment. I always use the same camera, the same setup to keep the frequency until I could get it more information and knowledge on the subject matter, and also have other people help out in the investigation. So I still haven't got that help yet, but I actually haven't even ran the experiment in years. I've been doing more scientific research, and then also understanding everything that's connected to what I discovered. So it's been a busy last few years, even though I'm not running the experiments.
Right. Interesting. The paint that's actually capturing the image, is that a flat black, or is it metallic black, or what is that?
It's metallic, and it has a little shine, but not too much shine. But it's just a black piece of steel. All you need is black steel for the sunlight. But like I said, with the moonlight experiment, I was able to film video, and in the video you see what looks like a horse or a mammal vibrating and appearing. In the center you have what looks like a green reptile, and then on the right you had what looks like a woman looking through. So you had three different species in the moonlight that were appearing in the frequency, but the camera was directly next to the water, and the water was in the plastic container, and the moonlight was passing through the water and into the camera lens. So once you focus in on that spectrum, you'll start seeing the prism, the visible light rainbow, the colors. And once you start seeing these colors, so long as you're filming video, you may not see anything when you're recording the video, but after the video is done and you review it, you may start to see or hear things. So it is a good experiment to run to test this theory as well.
The photograph that you have that says alien face, was that the first alien that you thought you encountered?
That was the first thing I seen that wasn't human. And
so what was that like? What was your feeling when you saw that? Because it's a good shot. It's I mean, I can see nostrils and a downturned mouth, which is really striking to me for other reasons, but then two large eyes. But what was your feeling?
Well, again, it was an aha moment knowing that it worked, but I didn't see him in the very beginning. And I created the experiment to communicate with ghosts. I did not think it was connected to UFOs. When I did see him, I knew it wasn't human. I knew it was a form of reptile. But I'm very familiar with that from throughout my life of growing up watching movies of aliens and UFOs and everything. I wouldn't say desensitized, but I show empathy for other life forms in our universe. And in showing empathy for other life forms, we have to realize that there could be forms of life that are not mammal or human. So the way I seen it, I was happy to see it. And since then, I was able to get that a few years later, the same species with the gold reflective eyes. The eyes are very distinct, and they have like a brown skin color. So I was more astonished, but also happy. And then that's when I started putting the pieces together. I'm being visited by UFOs. I'm seeing advanced forms of reptiles in the visible light spectrum and humans. Then I start putting things together and realize it's all just paranormal, extraterrestrial, and religion. It's connected. Everything is connected. Through science, we now have a way of unlocking a lot of different mysteries just by understanding this information.
How is it connected? How would your photograph of a soul, human soul, and an alien being, what's the connection there?
That we're not alone. There's other forms of intelligent life in our universe that are more advanced than we are. I wouldn't say that we're advanced, not super advanced. Can't leave our solar system. So there are probably other civilizations that are able to jump solar systems or jump galaxies or jump stars. And we just need to be prepared and know that once we communicate with them, we will learn things. And what I'm seeing, and like I told you before, through the paranormal investigative work here on Earth, everyone running their paranormal investigations, they're getting a lot of information out of that. Like, there is life after life. There are things that exist. So, if we know that they're here, and we know through religion that our soul goes to heaven when we leave Earth, when we die, that means we then become extraterrestrial. That would make God extraterrestrial. Heaven would be extraterrestrial because it's not here on Earth. So it does connect the dots.
And you mentioned heaven, you mentioned an afterlife. So do you believe that we coexist. I mean, wherever we go in the afterlife, we coexist with these other aliens, possibly.
That's exactly what I'm witnessing through my experiments. Like I told you, there are humans next to advanced life forms, like advanced reptiles, and there are non-physical entities with some that look physical and around other physical forms of life that are not mammal. There was one in particular where the bald man showed up, but he was looking the opposite direction. So it was the back of his head showing, but he had a gold halo around his head. And what he was looking at was two beings. I call them him and her, but it appeared, but they were more like camouflage. Now, if you think about the octopus on Earth, it is very intelligent, super intelligent, and scientists do believe that it has its own consciousness. Well, I believe that all living beings have consciousness, but that's another subject to discuss. But back to the octopus, how he's able to camouflage himself with his body. Some of these images, especially when they don't want to be seen, they will camouflage themselves, similar to how the octopus does it. So they hide themselves in there. So where they don't want to show you completely, but they want to show you a little bit. The same two I'm discussing. The female version I seen in Palmdale in 2010. But now back to the June 27th event. Before the portal appeared, I took two photographs, seconds apart. And the first photo, the portal was not there, but the UFOs were. But in between the clouds, I did see a him and a her, and they were not human. But it was similar to what I seen in the spectrum. And the female version of this advanced life form that I'm describing, which I documented on camera, is the exact same one I seen in 2010 in Palmdale, California.
Interesting. So
their appearances are the same, but like I told you, she almost, I can't describe her skin or her eyes, but this time it was more detailed than what I seen in 2010. But it was the exact same body features, same head and everything, and they were right directly next to the UFO, which then on the next second, the portal, which opened. So if you put everything together, you're seeing not only the UFOs, you have something in between the clouds that looks like an advanced form of life, him, a male and a female, and then you have this portal, which I'm theorizing to be a magnetic field portal. So this is a very important date to remember, is the June 27th, which I do have on the latest publication on my website. You can see that on the very last publication. We are not alone.
So what direction are you going in next? Are you going to take more photos of these events and different experiences you have with your experimentation, or are you doing more research into quantum mechanics and the threads of the universe?
Every day I study. So anytime I see a new paper published, I'll read it. Or if I always check the news on that. But when it comes to what I've been doing since 2015, when I made the discovery, I've been reaching out, trying to get an investigation. I have failed. I have not had one person investigate it. So my main purpose and goal now is to reach out to like-minded people who understand the information that I'm putting out, and then also understand that I'm running an experiment. I've gathered physical evidence that I claim to be what I claim to be. And what I'm looking for is a team of investigators to investigate my theories and claims. And that hasn't happened yet. So I can't continue the experiments. The June 27th event, I was just taking a photograph of a rainbow on top of my truck, similar to the Palmdale accident. I'm just taking a photo of a rainbow on a refrigerator. And I looked into the photo and seen what I seen in 2010. In 2022, June 27th, when I took the photograph of that portal, I was just photographing a rainbow. I didn't know anything was there. So as far as how I'm able to capture, I believe it's all by accident. Would that make sense?
Well, I think you've developed a certain amount of proficiency of gathering this data that you're finding. I mean, obviously, you've done it more than once, so you're the expert now on planet Earth, right?
Well, the connection too that I've seen is with telepathy, and that was an early connection I made back in 2015. As soon as I made the discovery, I realized it was a visible light spectrum. When I started studying neurons, I realized that our brain, you got biophotons that are created inside our brains. So our brains are creating light. That light is then transferred through the body in the nervous system, which is like electrical circuits. And that nervous system is sending out pulses of light. So you already have light, natural light inside your brain. With telepathy, people who are able to communicate with life after life, or psychics and other things like that describe communicating or hearing or seeing something else, there could be that entanglement to where their brain is naturally able to focus what I'm focusing with this setup, with this experiment that I developed. It could be similar to how the brain actually naturally responds to this type of frequency as well, but not with everyone. It would be certain people that are more sensitive than others that are able to pick up on it, but that entanglement. So if you got biophotons in the brain, if you were able to entangle, you could transfer information back and forth.
Before we go, I want you to talk about your website a little bit, because you have some articles and other links there, and I think it's worth reading. It's interesting to me. I got quite a bit of information this afternoon. So tell them about your website, and if they want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Yeah, well, all the information is on the website. So I update it whenever there's any big developments. But if you need instructions, they're in the publications on the website. The website has a few articles, but they're all short. But if you read them, they're very quick and to the point. We cover a lot of different things, even the magnetic field of our own planet and how geology affects that with minerals. So and then the macroscopic energy, that's how you could create free and wireless free energy just using these portals that are in space. So it does cover a lot of things. As far as my communicational setup and experiment, now, like I told you, scientists have published theories. So now I'm putting those in my latest articles. So you will start to see more and more scientific publications coming out, which are in support that advanced civilizations in our universe could use stars and astronomical light and a type of quantum entanglement to communicate. So I'm hoping that once people can see that scientists are starting to say it's possible, they'll see how I've been, trying to reach out for assistance with help investigating this. So on the website, if you want to help out, you can go to expand the research, and then it'll send me an email, and then I communicate through that. So if you have any questions, definitely, if anyone's listening, email me and I will be able to answer them as best as I can.
And the website's bentlights.com.
Yeah, pretty simple. Bentlights.com.
Bentlights.com. Guest tonight, William Lawrence. Thanks, man. Short notice. You did it. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me on, man.
Hey, do this for me too, though, if you would. My Alien Life podcast on Facebook, if you would post some of your photos there, and they can go there and look at them real quick, and I'll put some links next to it, and you could put links there too to go back to your website, but I'm sure they'd love to see those photographs.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll put something together as soon as we finish the interview. Yeah. And then thank you for having me on. I'm glad to discuss it. And like I told you, you have to remember that I'm just a regular civilian having to process a lot of information.
Certainly.
So the information that I'm processing is from the information that I discovered, not only through experimenting, but also through my research and collecting information that had anything to do with what I discovered. So I know that a lot of it sounds like it's not possible even, but if you think about the technology that we have now, anything is possible. So if we were to think that what I'm seeing, I've been told by scientists have told me this, that what you're seeing is nothing. If people continue to dismiss ideas that are progressively looking to put us into the future, if people continue to dismiss ideas, we won't be able to advance quick enough to even take advantage of this. So I believe that it's that it's very important for people to understand that there is new technology that can help us, and we need to understand that technology, and that's the basis of the website. So if anyone who can assist, please get in touch with me.
We know very little about light, so the more research, the better. Sir, thank you so much.
Right on.
William Lawrence, good luck to you, and good night.
All right, good night, man. Thank you.
You can find my website at www.myalienlifepodcast.com, and please subscribe to my latest downloads at iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and at podbean.com. And please follow me and like me on Facebook and Twitter. My Alien Life is written and produced for broadcast at Studio 254 in the Northern Rocky Mountains. The music you are hearing is produced and created by Elion. You can find all Elion's work online at Heart Dance Records.